Hey, I'm Stephanie, and I used to think that I wasn't a completionist. I loved buying makeup, but I didn't want every single shade, and I wasn't chasing after entire collections. I told myself I am just after the best version of each thing for me. The best lipstick, the best bronzer, the best cream blush that made me look like I was frolicking next to an alpine lake. But at some point, that little goal got a little messy and a little expensive and wasn't all that satisfying, because I wasn't just buying makeup, I was trying to buy the feeling of being done or finally getting things right. And while makeup was my personal trapdoor, I know this shows up in other ways too, in shoes or fragrance or trying to find the perfect white t-shirt. Completionism isn't always about trying to complete a set. Sometimes it's more about trying to feel like we've completed the search. So today I want to talk about a particular flavor of overconsumption that hides behind things like taste, logic, and the phrase, just one more. What are we actually going after when we chase completion? And what happens when we stop? Let me paint you a picture. In my mind, I had a fantasy makeup collection. It was on the larger side, but it wasn't huge. It wouldn't take up a whole beauty room or anything. But nothing in there would be random. Every single item would be perfectly tailored to me. Only the categories I cared about, only the colors I liked, but each of these categories would only contain the best of the best for my skin type, my skin tone, and my preferences. That collection didn't need to have everything, just everything I liked, which honestly was quite a lot. And I would wake up from these daydreams thinking if I could just find those products, I would feel satisfied, joyful, like I could finally relax. But here's what actually happened. I'd find something amazing. I would get so excited. I would feel like I was finally winning the game. But then the high would pass, and I would start to wonder if maybe there was another product out there that was 5% better, maybe just a little bit more blendable or a little longer lasting, or maybe had just a slightly more flattering finish in really bad lighting. And just like that, the finish line moved again. At one point, I owned like 17 different nude lipsticks. 17. And somehow I convinced myself that each and every one of them was completely different and absolutely necessary. There was the date night nude, the stage nude, the grocery shopping nude, the nude but make it dramatic as if that's even a thing, and then of course my favorite, the nude for when I want to look nude but don't want to look like I'm trying to look nude. I realize how this sounds, but in my head, each and every one of them solved a very specific problem that the others just couldn't touch. Now, I'm not trying to demonize owning several different products that essentially do the same thing, because as a makeup lover, I am fully aware of the importance of nuance. But you know what they say, everything in moderation, and 17 nude lipsticks just felt like a lot to me, even in the context of a fantasy collection. Because even if I'm just trying to keep the best of the best in every category, how granular do I want to get with my life? Do I really need the best of the best nude lipstick just for grocery shopping, or just for date night, or just for, I don't know, water skiing? Probably not. I really hope I'm not the only person who's done this, so if you're willing to share, I would love to hear what your version of this is in the comments. Maybe it's 10 different foundations because they all have different finishes, or 10 different bronzers because they all have different undertones, or maybe your trapdoor is something different entirely. Maybe it's 10 different pairs of ankle boots that all feel essential, or 10 different white blouses that all have a slightly different length. For me, slowly accumulating 17 nude lipsticks wasn't about completing a collection, because I didn't want all of the nude lipsticks out there. I was just looking for the one best one for me. But the path towards certainty meant trying a bunch of different things, because I wanted to feel sure about my preferences, about my taste, about my ability to pick a winner. I felt like if I could just try more formulas, test more finishes, compare more swatches, then eventually I'd know. And that knowledge would keep me from wasting money. It would protect me from bad decisions. It would finally give me the feeling that I was finished, that it was complete. But here's the trap. The more I chased that certainty, the more I needed to keep buying to get it. And the worst part of it was that my definition of complete was entirely self-made. There wasn't a brand out there who was saying I needed to collect every single color and finish. It was me rewriting the rules in the background. So even when I did reach the finish line, it would just redraw itself overnight. Maybe part of me believed that if I could just get it right, find that one perfect blush and perfect bronzer and have just the right number of eyeshadow palettes, I would finally become a person who no longer second guesses herself. But no makeup can do that. That's not a job for a highlighter. It's a job for a therapist or time or acceptance, I don't know. But definitely not something that Gucci Shade 1 can handle. Although Gucci Shade 1 is pretty, I'll give it that. On my search for the best of the best, there was always another thing to chase. Another warm-toned brown, another coral blush, yet another neutral eyeshadow palette that somehow felt fresh despite the fact that it looked completely identical to the last 3 I bought. And I told myself I wasn't being wasteful because I was refining. But if I'm being honest, I think I just wanted to feel like I was done, like my collection was complete, like I could say, this is it, I finally found the one. The problem is, makeup doesn't work like that. Faces change, preferences shift, trends cycle, brands innovate. So even if I did manage to find the one best thing today, I'd never be able to stop the part of me that still wanted to try something new tomorrow. And here's the thing, it took me way too long to realize. I was treating my makeup collection like a math problem that just needed the right equation to solve it. If the perfect blush plus the perfect bronzer plus the perfect eyeshadow palette equals feeling complete, then I just had to keep adding variables until the equation balanced. And you could swap out any of those variables for boots or mugs or throw pillows. It doesn't matter, the formula still wouldn't hold because people aren't math problems and completion isn't a formula that we can buy our way into. Eventually, I had a moment of realization. I was spending too much, owning too much. I was feeling too much guilt for something that had started off as just fun. So I put a complete stop to it all with a no by year. No makeup, hair care, skincare, clothing, or accessories for 12 whole months. And it helped. Not by fixing everything, but by slowing me down enough for me to realize my patterns. Like how I'd research a product for hours, maybe even days, decide that it was the one, buy it, proceed to feel amazing for the next 3.826 days, only for the cycle to begin again. Or how I would tell myself that I was investing in quality while simultaneously owning multiple versions of the exact same thing. Now, these behaviors on their own are not good or bad. I simply had to ask myself whether they were serving me. When I did those things, did it make me happier or more stressed? In my case, the consequences of those behaviors had been stressing me out. So when my no-buy was over, I decided I didn't want to just bounce back into old habits. But I realized how easily I could, so I began to build guardrails that I could live with. So nowadays, I use things like a wish list, and anything that I want has to live there for at least 30 days before I can even consider buying it. I have a beauty budget to prevent overspending. I use the container concept to store my makeup, and that gives every single makeup category a physical limit, and I can't buy beyond that. And I also have a favorite question, and that is, if I buy this new thing, will I have less time to enjoy what I already own and love? That last question changed so much for me because it made me realize that most of the time, I already have what I'm looking for. So, is there a version of completionism that can bring me more peace than my previous definition? I think so. These days, completionism for me isn't about owning more, it's about enjoying what I already have more completely. It used to mean closing a loop. Now it means opening a compact. When I hit pan on something I love, it feels like earned completion. It's not about using it up, it's about having used it enough, enjoyed it enough. And you know what's funny? Now that I'm not constantly searching for the next best thing, I actually notice what I have. That champagne eyeshadow I bought like 5 years ago, turns out it is absolutely gorgeous when I give it my full attention instead of comparing it to the 11 champagne eyeshadows that came out this afternoon. But here's an interesting thought. If someone walked up to me today and handed me the perfect makeup collection, every single best-in-class product tailored just to me, but with the condition that I could never try new makeup again, how would that make me feel? How would that make you feel? I think I would feel 50% thrilled and 50% scandalized because part of the joy is the search for me. But I do think that I'm finding a healthier way to have that search, and it's not constant, it's not endless, it's intentional. Now, I realize I may have defined completionism very differently than you do, so I would love to hear your definition in the comments. But no matter how we define it for ourselves, I suspect that completionism is never actually about stuff. It's about feelings. For me, I think a big part of it was wanting to feel accomplished, to feel certain. It was a way to feel secure, and those aren't bad things to want. So if you've ever told yourself, this is the last one, only to repeat those same words a week later, you're not alone, and we're not broken. I think we might just be chasing a sort of peace that can't be bought. But I'm learning that peace doesn't come from finding the perfect products. It comes from making peace with the fact that perfect doesn't exist. And once I stop chasing perfect, I can start enjoying good enough, which, as it turns out, is actually pretty wonderful. Thanks for hanging out today. If you enjoy thoughtful takes on beauty and consumption, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and check out this video here. A huge thanks goes out to all of my patrons and channel members, including my Adagio angels, for making content like this possible. And I hope we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.